one of the most important lessons I had this year was a golf lesson. And my wife said, go out and play some golf. So I lined up at Indooroopilly Golf Club, and Gary Corder, just before he retired, the pro there, I'm lining up and I'm smacking balls and not doing too badly. He said, where are you aiming? You know, I think you can drive further. And I said, I'm aiming just past the bunker, just down the fairway. He said, okay, there's your problem. What I want you to do is lift your vision. See that cloud in the sky? I want you to line that up and start smacking a ball at the cloud. I said, okay, give that a crack. Unbelievable power. We're talking serious extra 50 metres in how far I was driving because of that simple little lesson. And it is so similar for us in scale-up territory, where we get so caught up as small business owners and medium business owners in looking down rather than up on where we're going. And once we learn to lift our eyes, to lift our vision on where we could be, it gets exceptionally exciting. And some of the things to help lift your vision, look, it's pretty basic. You've got to turn up to events like this. You've got to hear other people's stories. You've got to read books, seriously read books analytically, and see why some business people are successful, and pinch those little pieces of gold that help you in your journey. Absolutely, peer mentoring and business coaches are absolutely important for you as business owners, so that you have people asking you those bigger questions. And once you start asking those bigger questions, it's amazing. Because I still remember starting Greencross, and we're talking, how many clinics could we have? I don't know, 20, 30. Talking to a mate, he said, why not 200? I said, yeah, why not 200? And it was then go away and put a plan together for why not 200. Part of that lifting your vision is continually scanning the internet, scanning the environment, and working out what's happening so you can be adaptable and flexible on where you're going. But it was interesting. So I did have a big vision for the veterinary industry, and I still remember bumping into a mate, John, and he said, mate, you cannot consolidate the veterinary industry. It's so fragmented. They're little business owners. Seriously, they are a bunch of dingoes. So John's a vet, he's probably allowed to call himself a dingo. And I said, well, what do you mean a dingo? He said, well, dingoes hunt on their own. And that is pretty typical for a lot of small business owners, that they get caught up that their way is the best way and they don't hear a lot of the good advice that's out there. He said, they're not wolves, they won't join a pack, so forget consolidating in the veterinary industry. To be fair to John, to some degree, he was right. It was damn hard. And that little vision for developing a network of veterinary hospitals goes all the way back to 1993. I was working as a young vet in London, having an absolute ball, and I decided it was time to come home. And I rang a veterinary hospital in Townsville, and I said, look, I know you've got a little branch practice. What about, sorry, I'll keep up with my slides. What about you sell me your little branch practice? So I'm on the phone in London, they're back in Townsville, I'm talking to a young couple, and they said, actually, we want to leave Townsville. We're about to put our main hospital on the market as well as our little branch practice. And I said, well, that's fabulous. How much? How much does it turn over? What do you think? So within 7 minutes, on a long-distance telephone call in 1993, I'd done a handshake deal over the telephone. It sounds very much like Shark Tank. You had 7 minutes, make a decision, get the job done. So in 7 minutes, we made a decision to buy a veterinary hospital halfway across the world. I hung up and went, okay, just agreed to buy a vet hospital in Townsville. I better ring my dad. So I rung my dad, who lived in Western Queensland. Now, Dad was on one of those wind-up telephones. And as soon as I got him, I said, Dad, I've just bought a vet hospital. Will you guarantee my bank loans and lend me some money? And he hung up. I went, okay, phone's not working too well. Rang him again. I said, Dad, did you just hang up? He said, absolutely. I said, you're bloody crazy. Why would you do that? I said, well, I've done the deal. We've got 3 months to think about it. I'll develop a business plan, and when I get back to Australia, I'll talk you into it. You back me, guarantee my loans, and put a little bit of dough in as well. 2 weeks later, I jumped on the Trans-Siberian Express in Moscow, heading across to Beijing, sea of white snow outside. And unfortunately, inside the train were a bunch of drunk Ukrainian traders. So every day I sat down, wrote my business plan for Greencross, network of hospitals across Australia, and every night I'd have to do some serious drinking with the Ukrainians. And And so over this period of 7 days, I actually did write a fabulous business plan, got back to Australia, convinced my dad I knew exactly what I was up to, and he decided to back me in my first business venture in Townsville. Went quite well, spent 20 years executing that business plan. I was lucky and fortunate that I bumped into some mates in the veterinary industry that shared my vision, and I talked them into coming on the journey. And actually at about the same time bumped into a couple of retail mates from Sydney, and in 2006 we bought a group of pet stores in Sydney called Petbarn. So very quickly we had two networks happening. I was focused on the veterinary side, and my mates, was a shareholder and a director, were focused on the pet store side, and we grew this network of pet stores in one camp and the network of veterinary hospitals in the other camp over a period of about 8 to 10 years. And 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, we decided to merge it all together, and spent quite a bit of time talking our boards into the concept of forming the largest integrated pet care company in Australasia. So we merged, damn hard work, and I think this year we're going to do 700 million in turnover. We have 550 odd vets. We have 5,500 employees. It's one of the best performing stocks on the Australian stock market. So it was an exciting journey. And look, when you put that much effort in, you do start to burn out. And I look at all the mentors, all the team, the advisors, the peer mentors, everyone that was involved in my journey, and you realise that it's not just luck that gets you there. It's having the passion and the focus and a whole bunch of things. So in the next sort of 10 minutes, what I want to talk about is some of the key learnings from that experience that may be useful in your journey as business people. And then the other side is absolutely the learnings that I've plucked from Greencross. We're applying in Montserrat Day hospitals, we're applying in Smart Clinic medical centres, we're applying in My Foot Doctor podiatry, 1300 Smiles. So I do have a passion, as you can see, for scaling up health and allied health. But it is certainly one of those things that I'm hoping, if you only take one good idea from tonight that helps your business, it'll be worth being here. But the big one for me was planning, putting time, effort and passion into developing your business plan so that you develop 3 to 5 year financial forecasts. You take those plans and you develop a financial roadmap and an operational roadmap on how you're going to execute, and spend some time with your team or with your spouse or with members of your business to road test that plan. But most importantly is to turn up every 90 days and review and reset that business plan so that you are taking inputs from employees. So one of the key things for us was we would ring our employees in Greencross, take a random person out of our database from the human resource team and ring an employee, say what's working, what's not, start doing, stop doing, keep doing, classic stuff. And did the same with our customers. Our senior management team had to ring one customer every single week and just say, hey, part of the senior management team at Greencross, how did you go? Rather than just the NPS scores, and that works, but there's nothing better than deep conversation with an employee or a customer to tell you exactly how things are going. Second phase of the business plan was making sure, and this is classic Jim Collins, is getting the right people. And having read all Jim Collins' work, that was his absolute goal. Spending time and effort in the recruitment and the induction process and the development of your team, so putting the right people in the right seats on the right bus is absolutely vital. And was lucky in very early phase, as we're starting to scale up Greencross, and you've got to put time into the culture and developing core ideology, what do you stand for? As we started to scale up in 2010, just as we started a 6-year straight of purchasing at least 20 practices a year for each year, so we added 120 odd practices very quickly. The senior management team and I did a very slow walk across Kokoda. Ben would have been absolutely delighted to be with us. But we walked across Kokoda in about 7 days and had this deep, I guess, trust factor that developed, because you're going through pain together. Those who've done Kokoda, 3 hours up, 3 hours down, 3 hours up, 3 hours down. So there's a high degree of, going down's harder because you're so fatigued, you start walking down backwards, you're so much pain. But part of that was developing this deep trust that we then took from Kokoda and turned into our weekly breakfast. So every Monday morning, 7 a.m, we'd meet at the local coffee shop, just the 6-7 of us, and discuss in a really informal setting everything that was going well and everything that was going bad in the business, and then we'd roll that into our weekly review meeting. So at the same time, we picked up on the Rockefeller habits from Vern Harnish, and not just had a light read of it, we deeply studied what Vern was up to, and the Rockefeller Habits book. It's since put out Scaling Up, which is a lot more depth and a lot more useful, but at the time, Rockefeller Habits was fantastic. So we moved ourselves into this habit of meeting every single week as an informal breakfast, but more importantly, we had our daily huddle, our weekly operational review meeting. We took that to our monthly management meeting with all our middle managers. We rolled that into a 90-day reset where we were taking inputs from customers, employees, and the critical issues and the roadblocks that are happening in the company, and debated it for a full day every 90 days and reset our 5-year plan every 90 days. So it was 5 years where we really wanted to get to, and reset, reviewed every 90 days. And then on the back of Kokoda and implementing the Rockefeller habits, we actually did the Jim Collins mission to Mars. We wanted to establish what our core values, what do we stand for? Why were all these people? There was about 1,000 employees at the time when we didn't really have, it was about 700 employees when we didn't really identify what our core values were and our core purpose. And it was an intriguing time when we got on to the mission to Mars that Jim Collins talks about very loudly. And Jim said, okay, work out who you would send to Mars that in your organisation stands for the values or stands for the organisation. And we, as a senior management team, started with 100 people. We got down to 5. We would stick on a rocket ship and send to Mars. If they couldn't speak, just by their actions, they were typical of what was going on in our organisation. And we came up with our 5 core values, which then gave me, as a CEO, the number one job was to simply roll through the organisation and talk about what we're up to, and link those core values to our where we're trying to get to in the 5 years to 10 years we're building our organisation. But what I see about a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, they want to get there tomorrow. So it does disturb me that it's okay that I've taken 20 years to deliver the Greencross business plan. Build serious foundations for success. So the education platforms and the skills and the training that you have to look after your people, the systems and processes, and document how your business does things. Establish the why, the core ideology, the values and the purpose. So when you're talking to your people, you can give them the reason why they turn up every day and what we're working on as an industry roadblock or an industry problem. And what I see is a lot of people rush down very quickly, and they hit those landmines that blow them up because they're getting quite impatient or quite greedy, rather than taking their time to assess where they want to get to. So it's okay. I keep telling my kids, you don't have to make a decision on your career right now. One's 16, one's 15. I said, relax, you're going to live to 100. And if a lot more business owners just calmed it down a fraction, got the funding right, the right people on the team, and start putting the right systems and processes together, and took a little bit longer in the execution, perhaps they'd still be in business. And the last one, as you can hear from me, you've got to have passion for the purpose. And as the CEO of the company, I was held absolutely, totally responsible, held up against the wall by my shareholders, by my team, by my board, by my customers on the quality of the business that we delivered, veterinary services. Absolutely, every single day, the main thing I had to worry about was making sure that we looked after all those elements of the business that gave us a successful outcome. So the performance, everything from a horizontal to a vertical activity going on in that company, right down to the share price, was my fault. So therefore, being passionate, turning up every day, telling the story of why we're there and where we're going, and holding. And the epiphany was realising as the CEO, I didn't have to know everything. I didn't have to be the guy that ran onto the rugby field. It was going to be the captain, coach, 5'8", and fullback. What I worked out pretty quickly as the CEO, as the coach, and supported my team in delivering sensational outcomes and sensational performance, and my job was simply to hold them accountable. Once I worked out I didn't have to know everything, I just had to employ really good people. Life got really easy. That was the epiphany. But to finish up, and it's a really important one, is this sharing what your values are and your core ideology. And what I see a lot of businesses do, posters everywhere. I worked out pretty quickly the most important thing I could do as a CEO was FaceTime, and not the Apple app. FaceTime with the people. We end up with 5,500 people. I tell you, we weren't FaceTiming with 5,500 people, but I made an absolute policy that I'd get into every single veterinary hospital in this country at least once a year. I'd have absolute time, just walk in, have a bit of a chat and a coffee with the vets, the nurses, the senior vets, the practice managers, and hear what was working, what wasn't working. Having that senior management team ring our customers on a regular basis. But they were the important things that got us where we need to get to. Get feedback, critical information, and make sure that we were doing something about it. So to finish up, line of sight, lift your vision. So most of us as small business owners sort of tend to be looking here. If you want to get a bit bigger, lift where you're going and get the mentoring support, the coaching support, read more, go to more workshops, put the time into planning, because at the end of the day, if you can document your ideas and your thoughts and then start building a financial model, not just a year out, but 3 to 5 years out, how to fund it, how you're going to grow it, how many people are coming on, and operationally and financially build a roadmap, it gets so much easier. So every 90 days you review that on your 5-year journey. It's a no-brainer. You start assembling better people than yourself and not be defensive about it. Hand over the ego at the door and walk in and go, you know what, my job is to support you and hold you accountable, and if you don't deliver on the KPIs and everything I expect of you, obviously you probably shouldn't be on the team. And that's where it gets really hard as a CEO to have to unwind people out of the business if they're not delivering. And when you create a really high performance culture, the team performs for each other and holds each other accountable. Patience, no need to rush, got plenty of time, and I keep telling all the teams I work with now, we're going to be in business in 20 years' time. Let's put some really good platforms in place that we'll be proud of in 10 to 20 years' time and not rush this. Because we rush it, we're going to blow it up. So start thinking. We're young enough, medicine's good enough in this country that we probably will get to 90 to 100. So we're going to be in business a long time. Put some work into the foundations. And the last one is passion. So to finish up, if you're going to be in business, absolutely be in business for the right reasons. And just making money is bloody important, but it's not the only reason. You're there to solve problems, get round roadblocks, deal with critical issues, seize opportunities, and as great businesses evolve, they are solving really big problems in this world. And so as a business owner, to do that, to work on those big issues, those roadblocks, those things that are getting in the way of society, you need to assemble the right team. You've got to do it for the right reasons, and you've got to hold them all accountable to it. So thank you.